Till now, we have read about the thermodynamical potentials, namely internal energy denoted by the symbol U, enthalpy denoted by the symbol H, Helmholtz free energy denoted by the symbol F, and Gibbs free energy, which we denote by the symbol G. In fact, in terms of these potentials, now we have to define an auxiliary potential, particularly for chemical systems, and that potential is known as chemical potential, and we denote this chemical potential by the symbol mu. In fact, I will divide this lecture in two parts. In first part of the lecture, we will develop the concept of chemical potential in terms of the basic potential, that is internal energy, and then in second part of this lecture we will define chemical potential in terms of the remaining three potentials, that is Helmholtz free energy, enthalpy, and Gibbs function or Gibbs free energy. Before defining chemical potential in terms of internal energy, I would like to say something about the quantity potential used in physics in several contexts. I hope all of you definitely are familiar with the term potential used in mechanical and electrical systems. Whenever we talk about any type of potential, we always talk it in terms of work done on the system. Let us consider in any vector field, that field may be a gravitational field, that may be an electric field. In this field there are 2 points, let us consider. One is P and another is Q. Corresponding to the vector field, we always define a scalar quantity which is called potential. Let us say at point P the potential corresponding to the vector field is V1, and at point Q it is V2. Whenever our system gets displaced from this point P to the point Q, you know we have to do work on the system, and this work done is found in terms of the potential change. Whenever the system moves from point P to point Q, the potential change will be what? Potential change will be V2 minus V1, and in terms of this potential change we define the work done. Actually, work done is defined in similar manner in case of any type of potential. We define it when a system moves from one point, or you may say one state, one point to another point, then work done on the system work done on the system. This work done in general is given as W equal to a factor which is known as capacity factor. Capacity factor multiplied by change in potential. Change in potential. This is in fact general expression for work done on the system changing its state in any potential field or any vector field corresponding to which we define a scalar potential. In fact, what is this capacity factor? In case of different type of potential, this capacity factor has different meaning. Actually, this capacity factor is the property of the system itself. To clarify this expression for work done, I am just giving you two examples. Definitely, you all were familiar with these two examples. In lower classes, we study such situations, such ideas. So I hope you are familiar with this idea. First of all, we consider the case of gravitational field. Let us say the case of gravitational field or gravitational potential. I am first considering it. Gravitational potential. Let us consider in a gravitational field there are 2 points P and Q, just as I have told you above, and corresponding to point P the gravitational potential is V1 and that of corresponding to point Q it is V2. Let us say, and a particle of mass m moves from point P to Q, or is made to move from point P to Q. If the particle moves from a point P to Q along any arbitrary path, the path is not specific here, we may take another path, but one thing must be satisfied, that particle moves from P to Q. In that condition, the work done on the system is what? Work done on a particle of mass m when it moves from a point of gravitational potential V1 to another point of gravitational potential V2. What is work done? Definitely you have studied it in your lower classes of physics, that this work done is given as W equal to m times of V2 minus V1. Here m is the mass of the particle. Let us compare this result with this general expression, W equal to capacity factor times change in potential. What you see? You see here that the quantity mass m is at the place of capacity factor, and mass is the property of the particle itself. So as I have told you, this capacity factor is in fact the property of the particle or the system itself. So in this case, capacity factor is mass. In case of gravitational potential, what is the capacity factor? It is mass. Capacity factor. In case of gravitational potential, it is mass of the particle or system. Similarly, we consider another example that is definitely familiar to you. That is the case of electrostatic potential. We consider the case of electrostatic potential. In a similar manner, let us now say a charge Q is displaced from a point P to a point Q, and corresponding to this point P, the electrostatic potential is V1, and corresponding to point Q, it is V2. You know, the work done in this process will be again independent of path. The path may be different as shown in the figure, but there is one restriction: the charge Q moves from point P to Q. These 2 points do not change, but path may be different. In this condition, the work done in this process, W is equal to what? We know this is given as Q V2 minus V1. Just a similar expression. What you see here? Here charge of the particle Q is in fact at the place of capacity factor. So in this case, capacity factor is what? Capacity factor is charge of the particle. Capacity factor in case of electrostatic potential is electric charge. So we see from these two examples that whenever a particle or a system moves in a field, that field may be a gravitational field or electrostatic field or any other field, then definitely work will be done on the system or on the particle, and that work done is found by a simple expression by the product of a capacity factor and change in potential during that displacement or during that configuration change or during that state change. In a similar way, we can define the capacity and potential quantities for a chemical system, as our concern in present lecture is regarding the chemical potential, and we define the chemical potential in context of chemical system. So now we would like to define, or we would like to find what will be the capacity factor and the potential in case of the chemical system. Actually, in case of chemical system, we choose the number of moles as the capacity factor and the molar free energy as the potential. In fact, this potential is also called chemical potential. So, in case of chemical system, chemical systems, capacity factor, capacity factor is given by number of moles, which is in fact mass, and the potential in this case is given in terms of the molar free energy. Molar free energy. For convenience, we denote this by the symbol N and this by the symbol F, molar free energy. So, in the light of above results, now you may define what will be the work required to transfer n moles of a substance from a state of molar free energy F1 to a state of molar free energy F2. You may write in the light of above results. So, for convenience, I am just writing it. The work needed to transfer n moles of a substance, n moles of a substance from a state of molar free energy. Molar free energy F1 to a state of molar free energy F2. This will be given as how? In the light of above equations, we can write here n times of F2 minus F1. So you see that the capacity factor in this case is number of moles and the potential quantity is what? This is in fact molar free energy F. This is in fact a general idea to how we define work done in changing the state of a system in a potential field. Actually, when a chemical system or substance which is free to move from one place to another, the system spontaneously move from a state of higher chemical potential to a state of lower chemical potential. This is just equivalent to saying that you have definitely studied in electrostatics that in an electric field, a positive charge always moves from a higher potential to a lower potential if it is free to move. Similarly, a chemical system or a chemical substance, if it is free to move, it will spontaneously move from higher chemical potential to lower chemical potential. But in equilibrium, this chemical potential is constant throughout the system. So, this idea is just equivalent to the idea of potential which we read in different situations in different topics. Now uh, let us consider a system consisting of several species, or you may say it is just a mixture of different species, and so we call this as a heterogeneous system. This is a heterogeneous system. We consider there are in fact n different species in this system, and all are different from one another, and they coexist in different phases. They are in different phases, but their existence is simultaneously, they exist simultaneously. So we say that the different independent components coexist in different phases simultaneously. When we have to describe the state of such a heterogeneous system, any property of this heterogeneous system, any property means any thermodynamical property, actually depends on some parameters. Among those parameters, one parameter is fixed. Any property of the system is definitely a function of number of particles in the system, and apart from that, that property depends on two thermodynamic variables out of the four. Just I write it this in this heterogeneous system. Let us consider, let n equal to number of species. In this system, and n1, n2, so on, ni, so on, nn. These are in fact number of particles. Particles means that may be atoms or molecules. Number of particles in the species 1, 2, 3, so on, I, so on, n. What does it mean? In fact, it means n1 is the number of particles in first species, n2 is the number of particles in second species, ni is the number of particles in ith species, and nn is the number of particles in nth species. We have considered it. Now, as I have told you, any thermodynamic property of this heterogeneous system depends on two thermodynamic variables out of the four. You know thermodynamic variables are what? Thermodynamic variables. You know there are four thermodynamic variables: P, V, T and S. These are the four thermodynamical variables. I am saying that any property of this heterogeneous system will be a function of these number of particles along with any two out of these four properties. What will be those two property on which the property of this heterogeneous system depends? It depends on the nature of the thermodynamic property which we will consider. So this is in fact a general case that if we consider x is any thermodynamical variable, then this thermodynamic property will be a function of two among these four, any two, but that two will be selective for proper system, proper property, and along with these number of particles n1, n2 and so on. This is something about the general idea of potential and chemical potential. Now I would like to define the chemical potential specifically in terms of the basic thermodynamic potential, that is internal energy. As in the beginning of the lecture I have told you that in this first part of lecture I will just define the chemical potential in terms of basic thermodynamic potential, that is internal energy. So now we are going to explore the concept of chemical potential in terms of internal energy, which is denoted by the symbol U, and you have studied it in detail in the previous lecture of thermodynamic potentials. So first of all we will discuss chemical potential in terms of internal energy U. In fact, this is the subject matter of our first part of this lecture. Internal energy U, as in general I have told you that any thermodynamic property of the heterogeneous system depends on two out of these four thermodynamic variables and the number of particles. Here internal energy U is in fact the function of what? It is function of S, V, N1, N2, so on, Ni, so on, Nn. Definitely one thing have come into your mind: why we select S and V parameters in case of the internal energy? Why not P and T? Why S and V? You can understand it in a simple manner. As we have studied in case of thermodynamic potential or in case of first and second law of thermodynamics, we know I am just writing this cause inside a bracket because this is just an extra fact to understand why we consider u as a function of s and b, or how we can remember that u will be a function of s and b. So remember the first and second law of thermodynamics. According to first law of thermodynamics, change in internal energy is equal to what? Du is equal to del Q minus del W. Definitely you are familiar with this equation. And our second law says this del Q is TdS and del W is in general PdV. So what you see here, when we find the infinitesimal change in U, then there is a change in S and change in V. It means in reverse order you can say that when S and V suffers an infinitesimal change, then U change infinitesimally. It means change in U depends on the change in S and V. So we must take U as a function of S and V. And as I have told you, this factor number of particle is common. All thermodynamic property depends definitely on the number of particles contained in the system. So that is a common factor, but this is selective, and in case of U we must select the property S and V out of these four thermodynamic variables. So I hope you have understand why we take U as a function of S and V. Now see, U is a function of n plus 2 independent variables. N is the number of particles and S and V are two independent variables. So as a whole there are n plus 2 independent variables. Since U is a function of more than one independent variable, or in fact n plus 2 independent variables, so if we want to find the infinitesimal change du in U, we must follow the rule of calculus, that is of partial differentiation. So by infinitesimal change, infinite simal change in U is given as, you have used partial differentiation several times, so I hope you will feel easy in finding du. This du will be what? This is equal to, first of all we will differentiate with respect to S, so this will be del U by del S, and taking the other variables constant. So what will be the constants? Constants will be V, N1, N2 and so on, into what? Into ds, plus, now we will differentiate with respect to V, so second term will be del u by del v. Now, except v, other variables will be treated as constant. So, at constant s n1, n2, and so on. Now, we will differentiate with respect to n1. So, this is plus del u by del n1 at constant s v, and n1 will be not constant now, so constant will be what? n2, n3, and so on. Sorry, here there will be dv. Similarly, now we will differentiate with respect to n2. So this will be del u by del n2 at constant s v n1. Remember, now n2 is not constant, but n3, n3, so n1, n3, and so on. This will be constant into dn2. dn2 and plus so on. Now differentiate with respect to ni. This term will be what? Del u by del ni at constant s v n1, n2, so on, n I minus 1 n I plus 1 and so on. Remember, ni will be not now constant into dni into dni and plus so on. So this is the differential of u. Now I am writing this expression in RHS just in a simple way. We can write it. The first term will be del u by del s at constant v n ds. What does this n means? I am just going to say it. First of all, we write the expression plus we will write the second term as del u by del v at constant s n dv. Plus so on and plus summation I equal to 1 to n del u by del ni, del u by del ni at constant s v nj. For the lack of space, I am writing here nj into dni. 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 Say it is equation number 2. Actually, the subscript n which I have used here, what does it mean? It means it represents, in fact, n represents the number of particles of each component, that is from n1 to nn. This is number of particles of each component. Number of particles of each component. And nj represents the number of particles of all components except I. Ni is not included in it. This is number of particles of each component except for ith component. So we write the RHS of this equation in terms of the new symbols n and nj, and what n and nj means you have seen here. Now you may see when the composition is constant, it means the composition of the heterogeneous system is not changing, then the system is a simple one and of unvarying composition, and in this condition we can apply the first and second law of thermodynamics for this system. The combined form of first and second law of thermodynamics defines, in fact, the infinitesimal change in U, and what is that change you know very well. So from first and second law of thermodynamics, we know du equal to what? Just I have written above, this is T ds minus P dv. This is the combined form of first and second law of thermodynamics. So see here, our first and second law of thermodynamics say that du equal to T ds minus P dV as defined in equation 3, and at present we have calculated the value of du in this equation. See here, we have calculated du in equation 2, and what is that? That is in fact equal to this much. Du equal to this much. So we can compare the coefficients or multiples of ds and dv in these two equations. So comparing the coefficients of ds and dv, we will get the values of t and p. So comparing the coefficients of ds and dv from 2 and 3. What you will find by the comparison of coefficients of ds and dv from equation 2 and 3, see here, we will in fact find that t equal to what? T will be in fact del u by del s at constant v and n. Say it is equation 4, and at the same time minus p, see the above two equations, minus p will be del u by del v at constant s and n. This is equation 5. So we get t and p in terms of u, and in fact this is the reason why we define u as a thermodynamic potential. Now we introduce a new symbol for the partial derivative in the above equation. See the above equation, equation number 2, the last term is in the form of a partial derivative, and for this symbol we just introduce for that partial derivative we just introduce a new symbol, and that new symbol is denoted by mu I. We introduce a new symbol mu I to the partial derivative del u by del ni at constant s v n j. So so that mu I equal to what? This is del u by del ni at constant S V N J. Say it is equation A1. In fact, this is the defining equation of chemical potential in terms of internal energy. In this equation, this quantity mu I is so important to considerations of chemical equilibrium that it is given a special name, or you may say a specific name, and that specific name of this quantity is called chemical potential of the ith component of the system in the given phase. This I in fact refers that this chemical potential is defined for a particular species of the heterogeneous system. This is in fact chemical potential of ith species in its phase, in the particular phase of ith species. So mu I is what in this equation? Mu I is in fact called chemical potential. Chemical potential of the ith species. Ith species in the given phase. So we see here, whenever we define chemical potential of a given species, we define it for a particular particle, particular species, and in that definition we take partial derivative of u with respect to the number of particles of the species, keeping the other factors, other variables constant. See, it is partial derivative, not ordinary derivative. Now, in terms of this symbol mu I, the equation 2 which I have mentioned above can be written in a convenient form. Now, equation 2 in compact form may be written as how we will write this equation number 2. We will write it du equal to T ds minus P dv plus summation over I 1 to n mu I dni. This is a very important equation. You see in this very equation that if we consider that the number of particles are fixed, then this term will vanish, and in that condition du is simply equal to T ds minus P dV. But if the number of particles is also changing, then du is not simply equal to T ds minus P dV, but du in that condition is equal to T ds minus P dV plus this much. Here mu I is the chemical potential. So this is the idea of chemical potential in terms of the basic thermodynamic potential U. And as I have told you previously, that in the second part of this lecture we will see how chemical potential mu is expressed in terms of the other thermodynamic functions, that is Helmholtz free energy, enthalpy and Gibbs potential. So this is all for today.